Hi, Josemaria. Welcome.
See how I'm
Hello.
speaking. Hope you're good today.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's truly a
You're
pleasure
welcome.
to. Thank you so much, Frank. How are you doing today?
I'm
Yeah,
good.
nice. Thank you. I think one of the testimonial you guys saw a few minutes ago. She was one of the earliest users of Keble. So the portion of Keble that she saw has completely changed, which is a good thing. And I think one of the beauty of even like Keble, every single year has been a unique journey of trying to redefine how real estate can be, right? And what we're going to talk about today is, with each of the home circle, we're trying to make it slightly unique. So people that have been consistent in joining would actually be interested in the next topic and the next topic. But also people that are newer and that haven't joined before can be able to, learn more about Keble or understand what we are doing in a light that we want them to understand. So today we're going to be talking about cash flow, right? And I know a lot of people, one of the conversations in the tribe, in community group chats was cash flow this week. And funny enough, we decided on this topic 2 weeks before that conversation happened, right? Um, and it was interesting to see a lot of people lean more into cash flow. Some people lean more into capital appreciation, right? Today, we're just going to talk a little bit about why cash flow is important, what it actually means, and the different opportunities that exist, and hopefully shed more light on the opportunities that are available on the Keble application. And hopefully, there are new numbers that we can also share so that everybody understands, how we're structured. The first thing is important before we get right into it. Keble is truly a real estate focused platform. So if you're thinking about how do I build my portfolio in real estate, this is a platform that is fully focused on it. The core reason for that is that we truly believe that real estate is for everyone, similar to every other asset class, right? We think and we believe that everyone should have some allocation into the asset class, no matter how small, right? So you can have all the investments in the world, right? But it's sort of weird if you don't have something physical, I keep saying there are two types of investments. There is the financial assets, or there are two types of assets. There are financial assets and there are physical assets. You need to have both of them to be able to build a very sustainable, portfolio as you go along. So definitely this is going to be one for the books, right? Um, Cash flow is king. I think it was a question, is cash flow king, right? What does that mean, right? And we've always heard about this conversation a lot of times, like, oh, cash is king, cash is king. Why? The reason why people mention cash is king, or the reason that why that statement is so popular is because when cash is available, it allows you to settle things, right? It allows you to pay your bills, fund your lifestyle. It allows you some breathing room, right? There was, I don't know if Warren Buffett, there was a time he was, I don't know if he's still doing so, like there was a time he was just stacking cash. And people use that as a signal that, oh, there is a downturn coming. You have to prepare for the worst case scenario, because at that point in time, when the whole market is down, everyone that has available cash can be able to seize opportunities really rapidly, right? So cash is king, especially when the whole world is sort of shocked. With cash, you can be able to pay school fees. You can be able to fuel your car, right? You need actual money to actually move things around. So it's not just valuation, it's not just numbers on a screen. It's actually actual cash that is coming into your account on a daily, monthly, or yearly basis. Now, there are a couple of assets that do provide those cash flow. So I'm not going to stand here and say Keble is the only platform that does that. It's obviously a fallacy at this point, right? But there are assets that do, right? In stocks, they call it dividend stocks, right? So when you hear dividend stocks or when you hear dividend ETFs, you're essentially thinking through that, okay, if I'm buying this share, I'm expecting cash, every 3 months, every month, every year from this, depending on how the company is structured, right? And I think UBA is the highest paying dividend stock in Nigeria. Apple also pays dividends. So there's been a huge, will I say, appetite for dividend-focused investors, people that are looking for cash flow. It's a thing, right? Before this time, there's something I think I was reading something the other day, and they were asking Amazon for the longest time. I don't know if they even paid dividends to date, but they were asking the shareholders that they're asking the founder, Jeff, you need your shareholders to get something out of this business. Not every time that you're just, it's growth. So there is an appetite for not just capital appreciation, when the value of something keeps rising, but the ability to actually take some, short-term gains, right? And also have the ability to look forward to, long-term capital appreciation. Businesses are also good for cash flow. There are tons of businesses that people have today that are generating cash every single day. Most businesses in Nigeria are actually like sales reliant. So you need some level of cash infusion to get it running or to keep it moving. For people that are into T-bills and bonds, there's a way you can structure your, for example, Nigerian government bonds, right? There's a way you can structure it that it sort of pays you every single month, depending on how you bought the bonds or when you bought the bonds, right? So there's a structure to that allows you to say, okay, government can actually pay me, every month or every 3 months, based on how I've structured my investments. So the difference between, stocks and businesses is that for stock and businesses, business requires that you actually do the actual work. If you don't do the work, you're not going to actually, get the cash flow. For stocks, it's like you essentially just put in your money and your money works for you. That's the idea, right? Bonds are also the same thing. The slight difference between bonds and stocks is that for bonds, you don't really get capital appreciation, you just get dividends. So they give you what is called like a coupon, and it's paid to you every single 3 months or so, right? And that is paid for a period of 4 to 5 years, right? And at the end of the 3rd year or 5th year, you get your initial investment back, right? So typically you probably do like maybe a 1 million naira investment. Is paying you 15 to 18% every single year, right? And that is spread for 5 years. At the 5th year, you get back your 1 million naira. So the only thing that you actually benefited from that is just, cash, throughout that period. And banks love that, and a lot of people should actually, have that in their portfolio. Real estate, but let me talk on REITs, right? REITs are really good. They are in this publicly traded. You can buy it on, any public stock trading platform at this point in time, right? The returns there are not as large, but it's pretty simple. They provide you income, and it's more dividend focused because REITs are primarily focused on income generating assets, right? And the last thing is real estate. So this is where obviously Keble is focused on, right? So Keble is providing you, I would call it I usually play around and say it's 2-factor authentication. We give you both capital appreciation and also give you, income, cash flow as well. So it's the best of both worlds, so to speak. Yeah, Steph. So what is capital appreciation, right? Capital appreciation is essentially you experience it when the value of an asset sort of goes higher, right? So when you see that you bought a plot of land in Ibejuleki and in 50 million and it's worth 200 million, that's an appreciation. When people buy land, it's solely an appreciation, play at that point in time. Or when you buy a stock like, Tesla or Amazon, right? They don't pay dividends, but the idea is that hopefully at some point in time, the value should go from 200 to 2,000, right? Or when you buy tech companies, so for people that are investing in companies, especially in tech, most of the time we're actually just waiting for some liquidation event. So capital appreciation is you don't receive it, you sort of, like again, you see it on the screen, right? And you only realize it when you sell the assets, right? So when there is a liquidation event, that is the only time you sort of see you get any capital or cash, infusion back into your account, right? Next slide. So differences, right? The core difference, there are a couple of things. I'm just going to touch on, key areas. The first thing is just timing, right? So for cash flow, it's typically when you see cash flow, they're usually done on a monthly, quarterly, or yearly basis. So there's some, recurring payments being settled in your accounts. For capital appreciation, you see it in, 12, 14, 25 months timeline, right? You see that in long blocks of time. So it's usually a long-term thinking approach when you're thinking about that. For cash flows, they're very liquid, right? Because obviously you're receiving cash. For appreciation, you have to take your time. So when people buying land, sometimes land is typically focused on capital appreciation. So that's why people are always looking for where are growth potentials in certain locations. And if I buy at this price point, how much am I going to sell, right? We'll talk on a little bit on, how those things are structured as we go along. Use cases, right? So for cash flow, essentially you're just paying, allowing it to, I'm seeing here that they say, okay, you pay bills, your lifestyle, but it also allows you to seize opportunities, right? So for instance, if you're getting cash, let's say you bought at Ibudurura or something, and you're getting monthly cash flow, right? And you seize a business opportunity or a or an investment that looks really good, right? The cash allows you to seize those opportunities, right? So it's always really important to have something that you don't really have to work for on a daily basis, but provides you that flexibility of, a monthly cash or a quarterly cash infusion, right? So who is it best for? I typically would say that, cash flow is focused on people that are very risk adverse, right? You're trying to balance both the long-term horizon of, capital appreciation and also short-term, rewards as well. So you're looking for a mixture of both to sort of protect you against any unforeseen circumstances. So that's why some people are looking out for, people that are retirees, people seeking for financial freedom, living off their dividend. That was a thing back in, early 2020, right? How do I live off my dividends? That is still a thing today. For capital appreciation, you see people that have, that have a longer term horizon. So people that are much more younger, that's why a lot of people are, the younger generation are looking into, cryptocurrency. It doesn't pay any dividend, but, the capital appreciation is very high, so, they feel like if I hold this for another 5, 10 years, it's going to be something useful. Next slide. Yeah. So like I mentioned, with Keble, you're going to have a combination of two worlds, right? So both worlds. You're going to receive, cash flow, right? And you're also going to get capital appreciation. I'm going to show you guys not just historical records of, some of the options that we have now. So how has the cash flow performed over a timeline on average, right? And how has the capital appreciation performed, over time on average? And what does it look like going forward, right? So when you buy a unit or a slot in some of these apartments that we have, you're essentially owning it for life, which is one. You also take part in every increment. So if the price of the asset goes up, the property of slots goes up as well, right? The other thing that you also benefit of, like we spoke about the other time, is the assets are insured. I think we had, AXA Mansard come in and sort of provide how they provide their services through Keble, right? So the first property we're going to look at is Ikate property. It's called Declan Residence, right? This is a 2-bedroom apartment. It is directly opposite one of the prestigious Nikon Town estates. I don't know if anyone has been in that Lekki Phase 2 Ikate site, you probably would know the estate. If you're very familiar with Elevation Church location, that is where it's located. So, but it's a prime location, right? On average, if you want to put it out on vacation rental, you're probably pricing it per day on roughly 150 to 200K every night. And that is typically the case for properties in that location. right? Now, a slot price, the total price of the assets is going for 233 million. That's the total price. But what we do in Keble is quite unique. What we say is that, hey, you can decide to buy the entire, units, and that's okay, right? You can also decide to own a piece of these units. So we divided this property into 10 slots, right? And each unit is valued at 23.3 million, right? And we went a step further to say, do you know what? You can, instead of you paying this 23.3 million at once, you can spread it for a timeline of 12 months. So that's roughly 1.9 million. And again, you don't have to wait for the 12 months. I know some people just, maybe after the first 2-3 months, if they have some, extra cash in their portfolio, they can always top up, and that reduces the amount they have to pay and the timeline they have to wait, right? So that is important there. You can move to the next slide. Now, I want us to take note of this because we look at a lot of things when picking certain assets. We look at annual rental income. So even if we don't put it on shortlet, what is the potential return that someone can generate, and what is the growth of that return over time, right, on average? So we're going to look at the normal rental. So if we're not doing any shortlets events, how much are we going to make? What is the growth looking like? We're also going to look at the sales, like how is the sales progressing over time? And we're also going to look at the shortlet growth as well, right? So we're going to look at all of this because it actually informed us on, why are we picking this location? Why this setting? Why we're picking this 2-bedroom apartment instead of a 1-bedroom apartment, right? And those are important things that we sort of pay close attention to, right, when providing these offerings on our own end. Yeah. So in this particular one, you're seeing that go back, annual rent, yeah. You're seeing that between 2016 to 2025, the yearly annual rent has been around 20% yearly on average, right? So that's 20% growth every single year when you look at it on average. Right. Now, this is a very modest pricing. So you're seeing like 6.6 million naira, right? If anyone is familiar with this location, if you want to rent it today, you have to pay at least 10 million naira. Right? If you check any platform, Property Pro, anywhere generally, if you want to rent out this space in this particular location, you're going to spend between 10, 12, 14 million, especially if it's serviced, right? That is the normal renting for this apartment, right? What's the next slide? Sales, right? So sales is also very unique as well. If you wanted to buy these assets outrightly without even thinking of any, you're not providing any setup, you're just buying it in carcass level, you're probably spending close to 150 to 170 million to just get it, right? And you can see the growth over time. On average, you're getting around 19.5 within 10-year timeline, right? If you combine the normal renting with the sales growth as well, you're going to see that on average, every single year, your portfolio is growing by over 30%, right? So that is the reality. That's how we look at things on our own end. And that allows us to say, okay, based on this, what is it going to look like in the future, right? Next slide. So these are the nightly rates, right? Right now, when we're thinking about calculations in terms of the nightly rates, we're actually using, 2024, 2025, pricing to determine, the potential returns for each of the assets, right? So you can see that, earlier in the location here, you're seeing that, okay, we started off with, 18,000, 65,000, 78,000, 90,000. As of today, it's 850, and weekends is over 160, right? So that is the current pricing when you're renting out, properties like this every single day, and it's growing on average, roughly 10% every single year, So you're seeing that overall, the yearly income or the yearly capital appreciation plus, income they're generating in terms of returns is totaling over 30% every single year on average. Right? Obviously, some years will be really good. Some years will have really good spikes. Like for instance, you can see here, this is 2023 to 2024. You see a huge spike here, right? And a lot of things could cause this, right? Could be the rise of, diasporan influence coming in, could be the dirty December. There are lots of infrastructure being put in place, even by the Lagos state government, to accommodate the tourism level dirty December that we're going to experience this year, and people are already planning for next year as well. So things are a bit shaking up to actually provide the right infrastructure, the right security, as much as the government can handle at this point in time. And the short-term market is experiencing that. So that's what you're seeing here. Okay, next slide. So that is on Ikate. It's called Declan Residence. It's very easy to check on the platform. You can check it I think that's the first asset. Or the second asset you probably see on the own side of the app. It's very easy to get into. If you have multiple questions, I'm sure that we'll be able to touch a couple of them today. The second project that we have is in Surulere, right? And in this asset, a slot is valued at 3.3 million, right? I think the total number of slots that are available in this project is 20, right? Like we always say, the Keble's mission is focused on how do we provide options for people that are interested in actually getting into the real estate market, right? So as much as possible, we are providing different opportunities in different locations. So it's really important that based on your preference, I can see people that, they want some diversification. So they are picking, for instance, someone will pick, okay, I want some diversification in Ibadan, right? So you pick Nov, right? I have some diversification in Lagos as well. So you pick that as well. Some people will pick a diversification between Lagos mainland and also Lagos Island. So they'll probably pick like, okay, I want something in like Ibudura is available and I want Regal, right? So as much as you can actually build your real estate portfolio in a way that matches, your own risk appetite and your own capacity as well. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is the annual rent, right? Again, this is conservative numbers, right? This is a studio apartment. Right now, I think the latest numbers I'm seeing, this is 800K. The latest number I'm seeing is closer to 2 million at this point, right? But it does show you that there is some large progression over time, right? And we're seeing that at the moment. So this is annual rent growth is around 9.6% across on average, right? So that's what we're seeing. Next slide. Sales has actually sort of boomed as well. Surulere is a very popular place, right? And I'm sure everyone that is here probably have heard of it, either from Whiskey's mouth or from someone else, right? So it's very popular. I think it's also important to note the ideal positioning of some of the assets that we're bringing on board. We actually detailed it if you go to the app, we have what is called fact sheets. And fact sheets sort of provides you with, if you have questions, it's very easy to read. It's literally like a question and answer for each point that you want to, get into. But I think what is valuable here to note is, like I said, there are periods, there are peak periods, right? So there are periods where, you just be at, this is 10 million, and all of a sudden there's this boom, this rush. And I think we even experienced it in some of the investments that we are doing in Keble. Surulere was a buzzing area from 2020 till date. It's just been at a tier at this point in time. Surulere and Alagomeji, really, right? They've just been figuring out like who is competing with who at this point in time. A lot of working class people are leaning into these two regions for residential purposes, for investment purposes, right? And it's been experiencing that boom. And I think it's a unique opportunity to actually key into this location, because I think the boom isn't stopping yet. The prices, compared to Alagomeji, the prices here are still really considerate, and I think the boom is only going to continue at the moment. The sale price here you're seeing is 38 million. But right now in the market, this is on average, right now in the market is add an extra 20 million on top of that, and you get to see that as well. So yeah, next slide, please. Nightly rates, right? So this is a typical example of the rates just staying constant, like nothing changes as much, right? So we're seeing growth, short-leg growth between 2020 and now on a yearly basis, averaging 19%. But between last year and this year as well, it has just stayed at 50K, 20. I think right now it's probably around maybe 60K at the moment. Not much difference, but there are periods where you can see progressions, right? But what I've noticed is that overall, there is some marginal increase. So when we say, okay, this property is going to earn, Declan is earning 37 million a year, right? That is, the current rate. But there is a lot of room for growth as we go along, right? And this one should be earning per slot, probably earning close to 300 to 400K per year per slot. And that there's also an upward mobility for growth as well when it comes to owning these assets. Next slide. Yeah. So we have other platforms, other projects, Budura is here. We have Nove in Ibadan. I think Nove is just roughly 8 slots left for the Nove 2. Buckingham has, I think, the same 8 slots left as well. So you can actually key in based on your preference. One thing I always wanted to, I think I missed out on that, is aside from you actually owning these assets, you also get to experience the asset as well. Right. So one of the extra things that we've added is the vacation perks, right? So for example, for apartments like Nove in Ibadan and Buckingham, you actually get 5 nights for free, where you can use it for anything that you wanted to use it for. And this is why I say they are financial assets that you see on the screen, and they are fiscal assets. And we want to make sure that you actually experience the fiscal assets, right? So even if you're in the US, you're in the UK, right? And you're coming in for, in Nigeria and spending some time here, you can actually stay in this place, right? You can experience here as well, right? And as an owner, you can also get some slight discounts as well, because if you're staying longer, you're the owner as well. So I think that adds a unique value proposition, when you're thinking of owning something here. You're not just owning it for the money, right? But you're also owning it for the experience as well. We have Budura that is in a resort location, right? And the location is just full of fresh air. You want to just enter, you're just breathing fresh air. It's in Lagos, but the air is different, So that destination, you can actually experience something quite unique as well in that location. So I think it's not just about the returns. We want to make sure that you also experience the assets. And if you don't have the luxury of experiencing it, your family can also experience it. Your friends can experience it as well. I know a group of friends that are coming together to actually buy this place because they host events every single year. And they're always paying for shortlet every single year. So there was guys, they're like, can't we have something that all of us will share the money, and we'll have enough money to book the shortlet, and we'll also have free nights as well, right? I know someone that bought Nova, and it was solely for her birthday. She just wants to, she's tired of paying, paying every single time you're going for a destination. You have to pay. So, okay, do you know what? Let me pay for Nova, so all of us can go to Ibadan and host something there. So I think that is the utility behind the asset that you're having, aside from the returns. It's just you actually use it, right? So I think that's really beautiful. What's the next? Okay, questions. Great. So we typically like to keep things tight, as much as possible, within 1 hour, max 1 hour, 30 minutes, right? But this is the section that we allow for questions and answers, right? Like I mentioned, it's not just the returns, right? And I mentioned there are 2 types of assets. There's the financial assets and there are fiscal assets, right? This is a fiscal asset. This is something that you will get to not just earn returns from, but you also get capital appreciation as well, right? And we've shown you like group projections in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years. So it's possible, as well. And one important thing to also note is that the assets, when you buy it, you can sell it anytime. So we've made it possible for people to actually say, okay, I can opt out once I own the assets. All right, so that's easy for you. The cool thing here is that compared to even buying the entire asset, it's much more easier to sell like, a slot, 2 slots, because one thing, there's the high possible chance that someone that is already experiencing, 5 nights or getting returns from one asset might want an additional one, within that same slot, right? So we're seeing individuals say, okay, do you know what? I can buy from this other person when he wants to sell, right? So that even happened in Nov 1. In the first, someone like, okay, I can't take this. Someone bought from it and say, okay, I want to have more of Nov, right? So I think it's important that the flexibility is there, the utility is there as well, right? And the returns are actually quite substantial. And I think that plays a unique value proposition as well when you're building your portfolio. Like Steph obviously mentioned earlier, this whole process is managed by Keble, right? So this is not, I think the only outlier here is the insurance company that provides the safety nets for any unforeseen circumstances like flood, fire, or anything like that. They come and step in. But regardless of anything, we handle the entire process to make it quite seamless and to make sure that the returns are, what we are saying that it is. So yeah, I think, Steph, I can hand it over to you. You can, I'm sure there are plenty of questions here. If you could help me to read it out, that would be helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hi. Thank you so much, Josemaria, for those beautiful, powerful insights. That was very helpful. You've given a clearer picture of cash flow and the new ownership properties we have. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope I'm not the only one that learned. I know everybody was listening. So, hi, now it's time to hear from our attendees. And there are a couple of questions here in the chat box. So, I also wanted to say, if you have any questions, you can either type it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand and I would call you so you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. So we're starting with Olufemi Ogundero, sorry. He asked 2 questions. So his first question was, how do you ensure the properties are devoid of encumbrances or government acquisition?
Great question. I think he asked 2 questions. So
yes, okay. So the second question he asked, why do you have to wait for 6 months after completing payments for a property before earning?
Okay, great questions. Thank you so much, Olufemi. The first thing that we do with every property that we onboard is to do an extensive due diligence. And we sort of broken it down into 3 phases, right? There's the physical inspection that we tend to do so that we actually know the location. It really doesn't matter where the location is. Like if we've not been there, we will go there, right? Because we are setting it up. When we started this, the first location was Ibadan, right? And before then, we've been in Ibadan a couple of times to see the locations, understand what is going on there. But we started frequenting the location a little bit more, right? And it became, we understood the market a little bit more before we even pushed the offering on the platform. So I think the first thing we always focus on is just location, like visits, right? The second thing we do is to look at all the documentations. So every single property has some underlying structure embedded in it, right? And every property is different, to be fair. For Ibuduwura now, this is a large-scale project. For anyone that has been to Lakwe Lakes, it's one of the biggest estates and golf estates in the country, right? And in that particular location, everything is seeable. So we had to verify that. We also had to verify the timeline for the developer, right? We also had to verify the developer themselves. So we spend a lot of time not just looking at the location, why the location is important, but we spend a lot of time on terms of due diligence, making sure that all the documentations are done properly. right? That's why in Keble now, most of the assets are COO. It's just intended that way because we've sort of spent time looking at certain deals, right? The next thing,
Why
the
do
next
you have to wait for 6 months
6 months.
after completing payments for a property before earning?
Yeah, so in that particular location, for each property, most of them are not, I think Ibudura and Nov are the closest to completion, but all of these properties are still under construction, right? So that means that each of them have a typical timeline of 12 months before construction is fully ready or before construction is completed, right? So the reason why you have to wait is because you want to make sure that construction is done, right? So I know that Ibudura should be settled this year. Nove should be settled in April. Buckingham should be settled in October next year. Declan, August next year. Regal, I think September next year as well. All of these have dedicated timelines, and you want to make sure that the timelines match with what we are providing, right? So the reason why you have to wait is simply because you can't generate returns with something that's still under construction, right? And even at that time, once construction is done, we also have to make sure that setup is done properly. And what does setup entail? Setup essentially means that obviously the space has to look very appealing, right? So the space has to have, every property will have like a solar panel attached to it. Like, so in case there is any issue with light or anything like that, it won't affect the returns that you're likely going to make. And it won't affect the rating that your property would have because your properties will be listed on Airbnb, bookings.com and the likes. So you want a situation whereby if it has good ratings, more people will come in, right? And if it has really good ratings, more people would like to stay in that location for longer. So instead of you getting nightly stays of maybe 2 days, 3 days, someone can actually book the apartment or your apartment for 3 months because he is certain that you have kept the standard consistent, right? We're looking at a deal in the US right now, and one of the deals, the apartments, because next year is World Cup, right? And in the US. So one of the apartments is fully booked for 3 months. And one of the things that they use for, one of the reasons for that is the standard and the rating from all the guests that have experienced that has been consistent, right? So it's really important that the experience is important. If not, those returns that we mentioned here will not happen, right? So that experience is important for each guest. So we spend time to actually make sure that all of that is done in good and record time. So that's why. Hope that helps.
Okay, so we have 2 questions from Adeshola Ade. So the first question says, so how many people are allocated to each development or at the rate of subscription for each?
Yeah, so it really depends on the project. It doesn't matter the allocation for how will I put it? It doesn't matter because each property has allocation of 10 to 30 slots depending on the project. So I know that Riga has 20. I know Ibudura has 30 slots, right? Buckingham and Nuftu all have 10 slots. But I've seen people that buy three slots, right? So they get the benefits of what are the likely returns that can be generated from 3 slots, right? So that means that if I buy Buckingham apartments and I buy 3 slots of it, it means that I'm going to get 3 times the returns of 1 slot, right? So it really depends on what you're buying for property and how you're thinking around those returns. If you buy more slots, you just get more returns based on that. But 1 slot is 1 slot regardless. Yeah. So I think the best way to look at it is it's not even cool. Typically, we don't even have 20 co-owners or 30 co-owners. Like we have maybe 20, right? Because people have bought like maybe 2 or 3, across each of the products, right?
Okay, thank you. So his second question is, if 20 of us subscribe to a development and I finish paying my bills in 2 months, Do I have to wait for others to complete their payments before we can get the property ready and I start earning his profits?
Yeah, like I said, all of the projects are still in development phase, right? So we've had people actually complete payments, right? But they still have to wait because they're still under construction, right? So I think that's important. And I think that's um, it's important to the distinction is that most of it is under construction, right? So I think that's a very unique thing to mention. So even if you pay maybe in 2 months, in 3 months, it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't, like, you're not going to start making the money next month. So that's typically the case at this point in time, right? I also think that, like I earlier mentioned, the timeline to even set up the place typically, and I've done this multiple times, is between 1 to 2 months, like to just make it worth it. Now, for the investors that invested in Nov One, what we did and what we'll continue to do is we keep them up. We added everybody to one group and we kept them updated with the progress of the assets, right? So you're not going to be left, you're not going to be interfacing with, just emails. We're going to walk you through each step so that you are aware of, okay, this is you guys, we're done with putting the curtains, we're not adding the bed. Like, that detail of you being aware of how things are going is very, very important, right? So yes, you're not going to be left in the dark, right? So you're going to be constantly given as much updates as if you bought the entire estate. That feeling, you're going to experience it, during the process. So I think that's going to be its own unique experience as you continue your journey as well.
Okay, thank you for that. We have another question from Godfrey Okolo. He asks, can Keble assets be used as collateral?
I love this question. We're working to make that happen, right? There are two ways to do it. There are two likely things that we'll do. It's either we partner with our existing bank, right, to make that happen. Because obviously you should be able to do that, right? You should be. So we're working to actually tie as much utility as possible to each of the slots so that you can actually go to the bank and say, hey, this is it, right? Because I think each of the assets has each of the assets has, you're going to get like a deed of assignment. You're also going to get like a contract of sale, right? All of that is fully legal. It's just, we're going to start off within Keble so that you can use Keble as a collateral to get loan, right? And hopefully scale that in phase 2 to getting it with external banks, right? So you can use that for external bank. But I'm pretty sure that you can use that within Keble. That's something that we're working within our own ecosystem to make it possible. So yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Adeshola asked again, any Abuja properties or land soon?
This is the I don't know. I've had this question 3 times this week. Lagos have not finished, guys. Like, there's lots of room. Lagos is everywhere. We are working. It's not priority, that's for sure. Like, it's not a priority that that we are spending. We've seen the deals. It's just that we have a lot that, like, just today alone. So we're seeing a hotel that we want to, that has a lot of appeal here in the mainland, right? So it's just like, if I'm looking at Abuja, it's so far, it's so far. However, we're working on Dubai deals, which I know is farther than Abuja, but we're working on that. That one has that one is more likely to come out first than Abuja. But I think it's something that we can. It's. I'm sure Abuja will come up this year. To be fair, like, that has been a very recurring question, and we will make that happen. Yeah.
Okay. Emeka Ajebu asked, what if a slot owner defaults in payment? Would it affect the other? Sorry, would it affect the other owners? How would
No.
you hedge against this?
Yeah. So we actually had that experience in. We've had that in 2 different occasions. And what has happened is that we opened it up and someone bought in. and it closed back. That's pretty much it, right? In terms of default, if you default, I think payment settlements happens roughly between 7 to 14 days or so, right? And you get, the penalty is 40%. So you get 50% net of what you've put in. So I think someone put in 350K for one payment and couldn't continue, and the person got 60% of that money back. So that's typically the case. But the rest of the owners, we opened it up and it got closed, in record time. So we've had that scenario happen, and that wasn't an issue on our end. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Razak Adekoya asked, if you don't have full rentage, how do you balance the shortfall? Does it mean return monthly is not fixed?
Yeah. So the way we put in most of the, most of the returns, we're working with 20 days in each month. But we're in a year, we're actually working with 9 months, right? So all of this English, or all of this transaction or gross annual income, we're actually working with less timeline than the typical year, right? So that also provides a hedge on another hedge in a way when you're putting it that way, right? So that's also very important on its own. So we've already accounted for that. Now, there are times when the monthly income is not fixed, right? So this is where it really is important. You guys are experiencing, if the property value goes up, you will receive the value of the thing going up, right? And you guys have seen that property values consistently has gone up, like rental income consistently has gone up, right? So yes, there'll be months where obviously maybe instead of 20 days, right, you're probably getting 15, right? And also there'll be months where the whole month is booked, So I think that's upward. You guys will also experience that. So when there is a boom, there is a boom, right? And that's what comes with owning it, owning an asset like this. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Benjamin asks, when would we receive our legal documents? After first installment or when payment is completed?
When full payment is completed, that's when you get it.
Okay, Chikebuka said Dubai deals would be great. Adesola said, let's buy Nigeria first. Let's buy Nigeria first. Give us Abuja first.
You're welcome.
um, Rebecca asked, she said, I want to start investing into real estate. Just that I am not really understanding how Keble works. Plus, is there a cost guideline to explain how it works and also explain how the various properties work?
Yeah, I think that's a very important question. Rebecca, I think can someone reach out? If there's a way we can, maybe you can, if you're in our group chat or in the community, you reach out to an admin, right? So that we can help break down things, because maybe this forum we might not have enough time to look at each of the properties. In terms of the cost guide, I think we're working on each of them. It's just that most of the opportunities, they don't last so long. So spending so much time talking on one, it's I don't know how to structure that at the moment. But I think it's something that we would work on, right? Just to break each one down as much as we can. Right. So I think thank you for that. If you also need maybe an extra, one-on-one conversation, right? You can, okay, they've dropped the link there. You can actually join the community, reach out to our admin, and we can schedule a call to just break things down a bit further. And I think that would be so helpful. There are things that we cannot say, all of us cannot even mention in this 1 hour or 30 minutes conversation. But I think, having that breakdown might be helpful for you. Yeah.
Okay, so we have more questions from more people. So I would take them one at a time. The first question is, How long are the monthly payments? Can they be structured as quarterly in advance or lump sum as available?
Yeah, you can, depends on you, right? The way we structured it today is monthly payments, right? But what you can actually do is that you can make for you to book it down, you have to pay at least the first month down for you to say, okay, you've locked it down. You can actually structure it in a way that you're paying lump sum maybe every 2 months or every 3 months. Or maybe you have to speak to, before you do that, you probably need to speak to someone in the team so that we're aware of it, right? So we don't feel like, oh, you've abandoned us for 2 months stretch. uh, but I think I know someone that is actually taking that route. So what they do is that they made the first initial payment, but it was like, oh, based on how my work is structured and based on how I would have lump sum and I might be able to finish it up in maybe 6 months. It might not even be up to a year. And he just said, okay, I might do like maybe 3 lump sums, and that was fine. He was able to, agree to that. So yeah, really, that's something we can do.
Okay, so the next question says, how soon after payment should I expect to receive income?
How soon after payment should you expect to receive income? Really depends on the project, one, right? Like I mentioned, once each asset is closed, right, a group chat is actually created for all the owners. It's called Home Circle Group. So for each of the assets, you get up-to-date information on each of the assets that you own. The second thing is the assets are currently under construction. So typically we take between roughly 12 months for it to be fully completed, right? So I know Ibudura is going to be closed out. Full completion is this year. Maybe they'll do like a open house early next year. Nove is going to be fully completed in April next year. So everybody that invested in Nove will probably start receiving dividend maybe around June-ish, right? So most of the ownership projects here would fully be opened up by next year for people to start earning dividend. And the earlier ones that we close will probably start receiving income earlier than most people. So yeah, that's pretty much how it's structured now.
Okay, someone asks, how long has the organization been in existence? Can you provide confirmation of existing returns on investment in your company? Thank you.
Yeah, I can do that. Like we've been around for roughly 6 years, right? It should be, yeah, 6 years, 6 years plus. So we've done deals in different locations. We've done a lot of deals in Nigeria. We've done deals in the United Kingdom. We've done deals in the US. Um, we will be doing deals in Dubai soon. So it's nothing new, right? So I think this is something that we've proven in multiple areas, and hopefully we just have you along the journey to also add that to the track record that we've already built. One other thing that is important to note is that we're not just working alone in this whole thing. Like we're backed by industry leaders, right? So if anyone here is aware of ARM, they're one of the largest asset managers in the country, right? They invested in us a couple of years back twice. I think back in 2022, 2023. I think in 2022 and 2023, right? So we are not working on alone in this whole journey. We have people that we report to as well. In terms of how protection of your asset as well, it's also, that's why we had the earlier conversation. For people that missed out on the last conversation, we had a conversation with AXA Mansard guys, right? And that just shows the level of seriousness when it comes to providing opportunities like this. We're not just providing the opportunity for today, we are providing it for a lifetime, right? All of these assets, it's structured in a way that we want you to earn income from this asset for life. And if you decide to sell it off, that is at your own, pace as well. So I think that's where we come in. I think that's what makes Keble quite unique as an offering.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, can the prices be adjusted downwards for the common man?
It will. It really depends on what the downward is. So we had that conversation multiple times. And I think that's what inspired us launching Regal. So Regal is like a studio apartment. The price point is probably the lowest we've done, right? And again, one of the things I also noticed is that asset prices are rising, guys. So like you're seeing us put out maybe like Nove now is going for 511,000 now, but next week the price will change because every asset is the prices are just going up. So it's like you're fighting a trend that is everybody here wants the return to go up, but people that want to join in early, wants to come in at a low price. The price now is the lowest it will ever be, and I think that's the reality of the real estate space that we're in right now. This is the lowest price it's going to ever be, right? So we're trying to figure out multiple ways to actually encourage more people to get into the space. We've also, that's why we launched Regal. Regal is actually one of the lowest offerings that we've had in a very long time. So I think that's where that one comes in. But it will be interesting to see more offerings that are, quite affordable. We do have like fixed income offerings that start with 10,000 naira, right? So that one is available for every person, just to get their feet into real estate. I think that one is Elite Heights. Elite Heights is on the platform. So if you're thinking of just getting into the real estate space, or if you're thinking of using the money for something in the next 12 months, we have that offering available. Yeah.
Okay. So Godfrey asked, what percentage does Keble itself own on each investment property?
We don't own anything in the investment. It's fully your property. The way we come in is that we are custodians, right? We make sure that the property is running. We make sure that every single day, like we provide reports for that asset. We make sure that that property is providing the right returns and making sure that all the returns are at par, right? So we do not own assets. Your assets is fully owned by all the co-owners. Yeah.
Okay. And Godfrey asks, who is the UBO for? Sorry, who is the UBO for Keble?
What does UBO mean?
I genuinely don't know, but he said, who is the UBO for Keble?
Yeah, I don't know that technical term, so someone should help me out.
I don't know what it is. Okay. Ultimate beneficial owner.
Ultimate beneficial owner of Keble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Is it Keble the company or
Beneficiary.
or the assets alone?
Keble the company. Keble the company. Keble the company. So
okay.
ultimate beneficiary owner for Keble,
Yeah.
the company.
Yeah. So we do have, again, like I mentioned, the company is owned by multiple individuals. So I just want to highlight that.
In terms
I
of
think the largest shareholder is probably ARM. Yeah, the largest shareholder is probably ARM right, at this point. So that's typically where the structure is. The second largest is probably the co-founders, right? But yeah, the largest person are the investors that own the company, and we report to them. Yeah.
Okay, so the last question for the night is from Olufemi. Can I wait until the property is fully completed before buying?
No, because before then, everybody would have bought it. Unless you want to buy from the people that bought it during the construction. And at that point, the price will be different. So you could do that as well.
Okay, so maybe we can take this last question, please. What's the management fee you take managing the property?
Yeah, so the average management fee is roughly 20%, right? So the way it's structured is that it's not just management, but it's also the accounting to make sure that reporting is done well, and to also make sure that we have a designated person sort of looking after each of the properties on a daily basis, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I want to make sure that each property has a designated person in reporting and making sure that it runs on a daily basis, right? So that's typically the case.
Thank you, Jose Maria, for your beautiful, incredible insight, and a huge thanks to each and every one of you that stayed all through the session. People that took our time, thank you very much. And as Chikwebuka would say, he has been commenting. Thank you. Thank you. He said, thank you, Keble, for teaching us. Thank you for listening.